Hi, I'm Luce. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going through my top books of 2025. So before I got into talking about the books, I did just kind of want to say hello. If anyone here has watched my videos previously, then you might have noticed that I took a little bit of a break. And by a little bit of a break, I mean maybe 3 months break. Basically, I just had a really rough end of 2025. Basically just for my own kind of sanity, I just kind of took a break. But it is a new year. Everything seems to be going better so far, and I genuinely really missed making content. I like just having a kind of safe space to yap about books, and so I am going to be making a conscious effort this year to try and post again. So hopefully, with this being my first video of 2026, that will kind of continue on a theme for the rest of the year, but we'll see. But yeah, 2025 as a whole was I would say a pretty awful year for me personally in terms of personal life, but also my reading. It wasn't terrible, don't get me wrong, it wasn't my worst reading year, but it definitely wasn't my best. But I still do have a actually very big selection of my favorite books from the year, the books that really stood out, and I just wanted to kind of highlight, give them a moment. Also, my final note before I actually get into the books, I hope the lighting is okay. Right now in the UK it is really cold and grey and horrible, so hopefully this lighting is all right. If not, my apologies. I'll try and figure it out for the next one. Yeah, let's just get into all of the books. I don't actually know how many I have to talk about right now. I thought I'd have maybe 5 books that I loved last year. No, I had a lot. So I am going to be going through them in, what's the word, chronological order, I guess, from when I read them, from the first book I read in 2025 that I loved to the most recent. Okay, so the first book that I read in 2025 that I loved, that I knew already was going to be on my favorite books of the year, was Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. I cannot describe to you how much I loved this book. I loved everything about it, and it is such a short little book. It is, I think, under 200 pages, just under 200 pages, and I was just enthralled by it the whole time I was reading it. This is a book that I don't really want to say too much about the plot of because it is so short, but it is a sapphic horror. And it is, in my opinion, it is the perfect combination of genuinely horrifying and kind of gruesome and just horrible, but also really beautiful. The way that Delilah S. Dawson writes it, I think it is so poetic feeling, and it is just beautiful, and the atmosphere is stunning, and I just adored it. I loved everything about it. I am 100% going to be picking up more Delilah S. Dawson this year. Bloom was just absolutely phenomenal to me. My next favourite, I still to this day, I think about this book, I think about this series. The last book is coming out, I believe, this year, but I did of course read The Golden Raven by Nora Sakavic. This is the 5th book in the All for the Game series as a whole, and the 2nd book in the kind of Sunshine Court, Jeremy and John trilogy. If you are not new to my channel and you watched any of my videos throughout 2025, then you will definitely have seen me talk about this series and just absolutely rave about it. I love this series with my entire being. It is truly a series unlike any other. I don't necessarily think that this is the best series ever in terms of writing quality and all of that kind of stuff. I don't care. I truly don't give a fuck. These characters mean everything to me. This world means everything to me. I really struggle trying to describe this series because it is technically, it is a new adult contemporary sports series. And there is sports. The sport is important, but it's also just kind of a story of these traumatized teenagers coping with their trauma and building relationships and friendships with sport kind of thrown in at the side. Sport helps them with their trauma, but also gives them a lot of trauma. I don't know. I love this series, and this was just everything to me. I don't think I can ever truly pick a favorite in this series, but this one hit me really, really hard. I ate up every second of it, and I am equal parts so excited and also absolutely terrified for book 6 when it comes out. Okay, then this is a book that to other people, I think because of the general kind of consensus on this book, might be a surprise that it's on here, but to me it's not. Evocation by S.T. Gibson. I love S.T. Gibson. Dowry of Blood is in my top favorite books of all time ever. But this one I knew when it came out had a lot of mixed reviews. A lot of people really weren't vibing with it. And I had faith in S.T. Gibson, but I was also like a little bit like, maybe it wouldn't be for me. This was absolutely for me. I read this book so quickly. I mean, again, it's quite a short book, but I read this, I think, in like 2 sittings over like 24 hours. I absolutely inhaled this book. This one is like a witchy occult type of book. There is messy relationship dynamics in there. We have a kind of complex, I would say, polyamorous relationship between 2 men who used to be exes and then one of the men's wife. There's a lot going on with that. I absolutely loved the way that S.T. Gibson explored that relationship dynamic. I think she did it in such a interesting and compelling way. And I love witchy stuff. I love occult stuff. And I think that, again, the way that she did it was so good and so fun. And I loved the modern setting. This is set in, I believe it's Boston that this is specifically set in. I have book 2 just kind of like on my bookshelf. Just, it feels like it's staring me down, telling me to pick it up. And I will do, because I don't doubt that I'm going to love it just as much as this one. But yeah, this one for me, not personally a surprise, but I'm sure for some people watching this, this is surprising that I loved this book this much. Okay, then I have one that I do not have a physical copy of right now, so I'm just going to put a picture up here on the screen. But it is Say I Do by Brie Alipo and Skylar Snow. This is book 3 in the Vitale Brothers series. I have read the first 2 books and I liked them. I gave book 1 3 stars and then book 2 4 stars. This one, I'm gonna just like tell you my Goodreads review for this, just to kind of give you some context. My review is just, I love stabby murder husbands. And that's kind of what this book was. This whole series is like a kind of mafia romance series. So in this one, we are following one of our characters, Benito, who is the head of the Italian mafia family. Like, he is the oldest brother. And then he is kind of set up in an arranged marriage to the daughter of the Yakuza family. There's a little bit of a switch up and he ends up being married to the Yakuza's son, Harlow. And it's just messy. Like, these two, they don't want to be married, you know, it's an arranged marriage. Benito is kind of in denial about his sexuality. Harlow is just like kind of like a bratty king. I love him. And yeah, stabby murder husbands. This book was very spicy. So if you're not like super into spice, then like this is not going to be the book or the series for you. I loved the smut. I love the setup. I love an arranged marriage. I love equally unhinged, stabby murder husbands. I loved everything about it. I think that this was by far my favorite book in the series so far. And I need a physical copy of it because I need a trophy for my shelves of how much I love this book. But yeah, if you just want kind of like it is definitely a darker romance. Like, it's not super fluffy, but like a darker romance with some like kind of levity and a lot of spice. This is one that you should definitely pick up. And then continuing on with MM romance and also books that not everybody loved, I have Kiss the Villain by Rena Kent. This book, I know, had a lot of opinions. A lot of people had a lot of opinions about this book. And also, again, if you've watched my videos at all last year, then you will know I love Rena Kent. I am a massive Rena Kent stan. Absolutely adore her. This one, I know, was very highly anticipated for a lot of people. And a lot of people, yeah, had a lot of feelings about it. And don't get me wrong, everyone's opinions are valid. If you didn't like this book, fair play. Like, that's completely up to you. Not my experience. I ate this book up. I loved this book so much. This is a kind of spin-off of the Elixir of God series, which is my all-time favorite dark romance series. And this follows a character that we meet in the Elixir of God series. And it is a romance between him and his professor. And I just loved it. I don't know, there's something Rena Kent does in her books. I think she puts crack in them. I could not stop reading it. I loved the dynamic between them. I am a sucker for a student-teacher relationship when they're both adults. This was in college. I think Gareth is like 20 something, and then Caden, our professor, is like also I think in his late 20s. So it's not like a crazy age gap. They're both legal adults. I don't fuck with the other kind of student teacher. I don't fuck with that. This kind, I fuck heavily with this. I loved how unhinged they both were, but in different ways. And I loved that Gareth was like at his core kind of baby girl, but he just didn't want to admit it. Really loved that. And again, I just think that Rena Kent puts crack in her books. I could not stop reading it. I was so invested in their relationship, invested in the dynamic. Again, this is very smutty, this is very spicy. If you've read Rena Kent books before, then you will know that's kind of what she does. Lots of people really didn't like this book. A lot of, you know, big booktubers, big book talkers hated it, DNF'd it. And again, totally valid. Like, everyone is entitled to their own opinions. If you don't like this book, more power to you, queen. I loved it, couldn't put it down. Book 2 in this like companion series is coming out in March, I believe, and you best believe that I am going to be absolutely inhaling that book as well. And another one that, again, if you are no stranger to my channel, you will have heard me talk about this series and this book a lot. I have Broken by Daylight by Elizabeth Helen. This is book 4 in the Beast of the Briar series. This is my personal favourite romantasy series. The way that I always describe it is polyamorous Beauty and the Beast, but with fae. And I loved book 4. And I mean, this one is also very thick. Like, she's like over 600 pages. I flew through this, could not put it down. The thing that I love as the series continues on is how much focus we are getting on plot. Like this series, again, is very spicy. And the first book, I would say, you do have plot, but it is a lot of kind of romance stuff. It is a lot of smart, whatever. As the series goes on, I think that the actual fantasy plot, the like high fantasy plot, develops in such an amazing way. And I am so invested not only in the relationships of these characters, but also in the plot. I think that the plot is so interesting. And I believe book 5, when it comes out later this year, is also going to have quite a heavy focus on the plot again, which I'm so excited about. If you've not been convinced yet by me to pick this series up, by me raving about it all of last year, then like, please take this as your sign. If you want a new epic romantasy series to be invested in, this is the one. Okay, and then going back to contemporary romance, but a very, very different kind of contemporary romance, I have Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandria Bellflour. I read Written in the Stars years and years ago, I think like in 2020 or 2021, absolutely loved it. And then I read book 2 in this series, Hang the Moon, in 2023, I think it was. Really didn't like that one. So loved book 1, didn't like book 2. Was a little bit hesitant going into book 3, not kind of sure how I was going to feel about it. I loved this book. I loved it so much. What I've kind of realised is Alexandria Bellflour's sapphic romance, because that's what this one is, that's what book 1 is, her sapphic romance hits really hard for me. MF romance, which is what book 2 was, I'm not sure it's for me, so I think I'm just going to be picking up her sapphic books from now on. This one is like a second chance kind of romance. It follows these two women who were best friends when they were teenagers, and they one summer had this kind of like little bit of like a romantic fling together, and then there was a misunderstanding that happened. They didn't talk to each other for many years, and then later on in their adult life they end up having to become roommates again, and so they have to kind of deal with the feelings that they had from when they were teenagers and also feelings now. And I loved it. I loved it so much. Like, I am not normally someone who likes second chance romance either, so that was also a thing that was making me kind of hesitant going into this one. I loved it. I loved both of our main characters so much. I loved them together. Again, I loved the smut. I think that the way that Alexandria Bellflour does smut, like, this had me like fanning myself. Like, I thought it was so hot. And I just, yeah, I loved this book. I think it is the perfect way to kind of complete the trilogy, and I am 100% going to be reading more of her, specifically sapphic romances, going forward. And then I believe this is my only YA book that I have here in my favourite books of the year, but it is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. This is the absolutely gorgeous Fairy Loot edition. Stunning. And this book took me completely by surprise. Like, I truly had no expectations going into this. I did not know how I was going to think or feel about it. I think I'd only heard one person talk about it prior to picking it up. And again, devoured this book, absolutely ate it up. This is, the way that I would describe it, is a mix between The Cruel Prince and Bridgerton. It is set in this like Regency period, but it has the fae in this have the kind of like devious kind of trickstery nature of the Cruel Prince fae. This is following our main character who is of age, and so she is kind of at the age where she is going to be looking for a husband, and her family situation right now is not looking great. So she is kind of trying to secure the best marriage she can, the best husband she can for her family. And she ends up kind of being invited into this opportunity to marry the prince, the fae prince of the realm. And it's kind of this group of girls who are all competing for the hand of the prince. Thought that it was so much fun, and I loved loved the way that the Fae were kind of portrayed and described in this. I think that it was, don't get me wrong, I like a big buff Fae man with like, you know, a massive wingspan, but this kind of Fae I love as like a little bit of a change of pace. Like, as I said, they were devious and they were kind of mean, and like I just think that that was such like a refreshing take on Fae, considering all the Fae that we are getting right now. And again, absolutely frothing at the mouth for book 2. We'll be picking it up as soon as it comes out. Next up I have another really thick book. I have City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. This is a book that I have been so intrigued about for quite a while actually, and I only just got around to picking up in 2025. The way that this was always described to me was this was basically like Crescent City. It was like, if you like Crescent City, then you need to read this one. And I love Crescent City personally, so I was very intrigued going into this, kind of what I was going to think about it. I loved this so much. I do 100% get the Crescent City comparisons. This is an urban fantasy. It follows a main character who, in this one, her best friend is kidnapped. In Crescent City, her best friend is murdered. But like, that's a similar setup. There's also a kind of like a big, strong male character who comes as a protector for the female character. There's a lot of similarities. But I do think that this truly stands on its own as a separate story. Could be getting ahead of myself because I've only read the first one, but I think I could end up liking this more than Crescent City. And this, like I said, this is a massive book. Like, I believe, I've got the hiccups. Like, this physical version is like 730 pages. I think the Kindle version that I read, it was like over 800. But again, I flew through this. Like, I did not feel the length of these books at all. I am so keen to pick up book 2. I know that the size is intimidating, but like, I promise it doesn't read like a 800-page book. If you want like a really fun romantasy, like this is a little bit dark, but not like crazy dark, not like a lot of the kind of romantasy that I'm seeing published nowadays. This one feels more fun than I can't recommend this book enough. I am going to be diving into book 2 hopefully very soon. Okay, and then I have a book that genuinely took me completely by surprise. Like, truly did not think that I was gonna love this book anywhere near as much as I did. But that is The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Bridget Knightley. This is the Illumicrate, I think it was, edition. She's gorgeous. This book, oh my god, I listened to the audiobook of this. I do think the audiobook was fantastic. I listened to this, I think, in like, again, less than 24 hours. Could not put it down. This is like, if you want a fun rom-com basically, but in a fantasy setting, this is the book that you need to be picking up. I was genuinely laughing out loud listening to this audiobook. I was like giggling at their interactions. Oh my god, I loved it so much. This book had me feeling fucking giddy. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. I felt giddy reading it. This is an enemies to lovers. One of them is I believe he's an assassin, if I'm remembering correctly, and one is a healer. He ends up going to her because he needs help with an ailment that he has. She very reluctantly agrees to help him. And they end up kind of in a lot of hijinks and like silly fun situations together. And I adored every single second of it. I loved the world, I loved their banter, I loved the plot, I loved their romance, like their kind of slow burn, I would say, actually, romance. I just adored absolutely everything about this. And again, like I said, it felt like a rom-com, and I think that considering a lot of what I read is like kind of darker or like more serious in tone a lot of the time, I think that this was such a nice, refreshing break from that. And again, another one, as soon as book 2 is out, I am going to be absolutely sprinting to get a copy of it. And another change of pace, one that I truly did not think that I was going to love really anywhere near as much as I did, is Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. I am not normally a cozy fantasy kind of girly. It is normally a genre that I kind of tend to steer away from because it just doesn't really do much for me. This did everything for me. This did absolutely everything for me. I think what I loved about this, like with The Irresistible Urge, is this felt like such a change of pace. This felt such like a refreshing read, because this is technically, like, I would say it's a cozy romantasy, but we have like both the characters, I believe, are like over 40. Our main male character is not like this smooth, like suave guy. He's like a big awkward teddy bear. Like, he doesn't really know how to flirt. He doesn't really know what he's doing with himself. And he's very sweet and he's very lovely, but he's really awkward. And And same with our main female character, like she's not this like badass, like, you know, super like quick on her feet banter queen. Like no, she's just a woman. She's truly just a woman, and I loved it. I loved both of the characters. I love their dynamics so much. What I was not expecting with this series actually is that it is going to kind of like have an overarching plot. I thought that these were going to be more kind of just standalones in the same world, just like following different characters, whatever. But no, there is actually going to be a kind of overarching plot, which I'm really excited about, and I'm again really excited to pick up the rest of the books in the series. I mean, the kind of blurb on the back I think does sum it up really well. It is a darkly whimsical cozy fantasy featuring sock knitting paladins, badass perfumers, courtroom hijinks, and heart-racing romance. Also the cover, like this is probably my favorite. Like, this isn't a special edition either. This is just my favorite cover of a book, a standard cover of a book that's, I think, ever come out. Another one that I do not have a physical copy of right now, so again, picture on the screen, but it is Go Luck Yourself by Sarah Roche. This is the second book after The Nightmare Before Christmas, which I read The Nightmare Before Christmas in 2023. Absolutely loved it. I think it was on my top list of books for 2024. If it wasn't, it was like honorable mention. But this is the second book in that, following the main character from that book's brother. And this one is a romance between one of the Princes of Christmas and the Prince of St. Patrick's Day. And again, I feel like I'm talking about too positively about too many books and I'm running out of kind of words to describe them. But like, I just loved it. I loved it so much. I think that what I really loved specifically about this one, I really loved the exploration of our main character Chris's anxiety and kind of his mental health struggles. Number one, I related to it just personally, but I also just think it was really well done, and I thought that it added a really interesting layer to this story as well, on top of, you know, all the kind of like slightly magical plot going on and the relationship dynamics. I feel like it just like grounded him as a character more. And then again, I don't know what it is about the way that Sarah Roche writes her romances, but I just love them. It's the kind of romance that has me like giddy and like giggling, kicking my feet. Like there's something about the way that she writes it. And I believe that I think it's gonna be the last book in this trilogy is going to be Sapphic, and I cannot wait for that. I have never read any Sarah Roche books before this either. Like these two books are my first kind of foray into her works. I know that she's written, I believe it's just YA fantasy before this, and I am kind of intrigued to go back and read her YA fantasy to see if I love it as much as her adult romance. But yeah, loved this book. I might have almost liked it more than the first one as well, which is like saying something because I loved the first one. I feel like this is just like a really underhyped romance series. Like I don't really see anyone talking about this, and I think it deserves so much more hype because I think that these books are absolutely phenomenal. Okay, and then this one's, I don't really know how I'm going to talk about this one, but this is another one that I don't have a physical copy of, so again, photo on the screen. But Little Bird Lost by Jessie Walker. This book, I don't know how to talk about this book. I don't know how to describe this book. It is a spin-off of the Lost Boys series by Jessie Walker, which if you saw my top books from 2024, the second book in that series, which is If There's a Way, I believe it is, was in my top books of 2024 as well. This is a spin-off of that, and it's a dark contemporary, and it is not a romance. It has a romance in it, but the story itself I would not describe in any way as a romance. If you're looking for a dark romance, this is not probably going to be the book for you. And I don't really want to say too much about this book because it is connected to the Lost Boys series, and I feel like talking about this one too much will kind of like potentially spoil some stuff in that one. But I guess the brief description is there is a girl who she ends up getting kidnapped and taken to this place called the Aviary. And she is exposed to a lot of very dark, traumatic things in this place by a lot of different people. But she does end up kind of finding solace and friendship and kind of towards the end of romance with these boys that are also there. And this is, again, I don't know how to talk about this book because it almost feels wrong to say that I loved it because of how dark and truly like traumatic this book kind of felt. But I was, I guess, enthralled by it. Like, I could not put this book down. When I wasn't reading it, I was constantly thinking about it. It was cinematic. I felt like I was watching these events happen, which was not always a good thing, because, like I said, this book was really horrifying in a lot of aspects and in a lot of scenes. I think the way that Jessie Walker writes is also just beautiful. And I don't know, I loved it, for lack of a better word. I was enamored by it. I was enthralled by it. And I do know that she is writing a sequel to this, which I believe from what I've seen is going to be more of a romance. Like I said, this one I think was just more focused on our main character and kind of truly just watching her develop and grow and learn how to cope with the trauma that she was experiencing. And yeah, I believe book 2 is going to focus more on her, you know, after her dealing with kind of the consequences of all of what she dealt with, and then also the kind of romantic relationships that she developed there, developing them further. Yeah, this was probably my top book of the year, but again, I struggled to talk about it and I struggled to say I loved it, but like, truly a phenomenal piece of literature, I guess, is the best way I can kind of sum it up. Okay, and then the last book that I have to talk about in my favourites of the year. I finally read The Long Game by Rachel Reid. Again, I don't have a physical copy, so here she is on the screen. So obviously, I'm sure a lot of people watching this will have either actually seen Heated Rivalry, the TV show, or will have seen all the hype about it. I read Heated Rivalry back in 2020, I believe it was. It was like one of the first contemporary romance books I ever read when I got into romance back then. And I absolutely loved it. Still to this day, probably my favourite contemporary romance book of all time. And then The Long Game came out a couple years later, and I was really excited about it, but I was also absolutely terrified to read it. And I put it off. And I've only just read it. Also, if you don't know, actually, let me just circle back a little bit. If you don't know Heated Rivalry and you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, Heated Rivalry is an ice hockey romance following Shane and Ilya, who are two ice hockey rivals. And they are on separate teams, they're always pitted against each other, and they are like the biggest rivals in the league, but they're actually for many years sleeping together, having a kind of sexual relationship that develops into a, in my opinion, absolutely beautiful romantic one. And The Long Game is the sequel, the follow-up to Heated Rivalry. And I loved this book so much. I don't know that I love it more than Heated Rivalry. I don't know if anything will be able to top that book for me, but I'm so attached to these characters. I think it also helped that I had just finished watching the show when I started reading The Long Game. Also, if you haven't watched the show yet and you are in the UK, it is coming to the UK legally this weekend, the 10th or the 11th of January. So please go watch it, please go binge it. It is my hyperfixation. I am completely obsessed with it. It is everything to me. So please go watch it. But The Long Game. Main thing that I think really specifically resonated with me again was the description and the kind of depiction of Ilya's mental health. I think was done in such a beautiful and, in my opinion, really realistic way. You know, it wasn't like one of those situations of like, oh, you're dealing with mental health issues, oh, but you have the love of your life and so now everything's fine. No, it was like a very realistic thing of like, there's no off switch for it. You know, you are dealing with this and you'll have good days, you'll have bad days, and it's how you learn to cope with that. That was a really big like topic of the story, and I thought that it was done so beautifully. I obviously just love seeing Shane and Ilya together. I am so invested in their characters and their romance and their relationship. I just truly thought that it was beautiful. I loved everything about it. I love the smut, I love the characters, I love the mental health struggles. I loved everything. I thought that it was such a beautiful and well done follow-up, and truly at this point I would just, I think, read anything that Rachel Reid writes. Yeah, those are all the books that I absolutely loved. I am crossing my fingers and hoping better reading year in 2026 than I did in 2025. I think my next video that will be going up is going to be my top books that I'm going to be reading in 2026. I did, for some reason, pick 26 books for 2026. So I'll be going through that in probably my next video. But I want to just say thank you for anyone that is watching this video, anyone who has watched any of my previous videos and is still here after my little kind of mini hiatus. I really, really appreciate you. If you did like this video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe if you feel like it. And yeah, hopefully I will see you again soon. Bye!